Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally happening. It's been almost 2 years, I think, since the last time I uploaded a video like this. But today, on Mr. Schwartz's Art Hour, I, Mr. Schwartz, am actually going to have an art tutorial for you. Specifically, how to draw Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So for the first time in almost 2 years, meet me on the other side of this scene transition, and let's get ourselves started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with how to draw Appa. So the one thing that you really want to keep in mind is that this is the overall size of the actual paper that I'm working on. So when I draw the shapes here, it would serve you well to try to draw them at about the same size that I am, just to make sure that everything is going to fit on the page in the proper way. So we're going to sketch in a rough construction line for where Appa's head is going to be and what relative shape it's going to be. He's got a very large head. And then what we're going to do is, instead of drawing the actual shape for what Appa is, what we're instead going to do is we're going to construct Appa out of basic building blocks first, is the best way I can describe it. Where you got to think about it how is you're not drawing the actual character itself right now. We're not drawing Appa, we're drawing a series of shapes that eventually are going to become Appa. But if you think about it this way, then your mind will not start placing pre-expectations of what everything should look like, because this doesn't look like Appa right now. But what this will do is help us make sure everything is going to fit on the page where we want it to. So we have a shape for where the basic head is going to be, and we have the shape for where the basic body is going to be. So what I would do next is, Appa has 6 legs. So what I'm going to do is, right around here, I'm going to sketch in a shape that goes down off of the main body line. It goes all the way out like this, and then comes back up. So what I've blocked out here is this is going to be the area of the body that is occupied by Appa's legs on this side. Whereas over here, I'm going to draw another shape, but a lot smaller, that will show us where Appa's legs are going to be on this side of the body. This sort of thing, again, it just gives you a nice rough estimate of where everything is going to be located. In this case right now, I'm roughing in the shape of where Appa's tail is going to be, because he's going to be flying through the air right now, because why wouldn't he? He is an air bison after all. So we did a little zoom in on his head. What I would do in this instance is I would split the head where the middle of his face would be located. In this case, since Appa is looking off to the left, we would make the facial divide go a little bit more to the left side than to the right. What this will do is this will make it a lot easier for us to make sure we place the features in the proper place. If he was looking right at us, the middle line would be here, whereas if he was looking more to the right or left, we would place the line accordingly. And it needs to be curving because Appa's head is a very circular shape. So this divides the head down the middle. Then what I want to put in is a line dictating where his eyes are going to be. Appa is very much a large forehead, so we're going to be placing his eyes a lot further down, probably about here. Again, this just serves to help us map in the features a whole lot easier and have a lot easier time doing so. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser and lightly erase out my construction lines. You always want to be drawing lightly enough that you can erase it if you make a mistake. And now what I'll do is I'll start roughing in the actual features for Appa. So if we know that his middle of his head is going to be right here. So what that tells me is that he has a very large nose. So I'm going to rough in where that's going to be. Again, I say rough because I'm not drawing the actual shape yet. I'm drawing the overall shape that I can go back to later and fix up if I need to. He's a very large, flat nose, very wide. And then from the middle of his nose shape, we have the muzzle that extends out to the edge of our circle here, but not all the way out over here. You see more of this side of the face than you do the left side. So between here and here, this is where his muzzle will be. And his big muzzle extends down and around. Kind of like Garfield is the only way I can ever think about something that looks like this. I always think Garfield. He has a little tuft of fur below the muzzle shape. And then his eyes are going to be here and here. They're very widely set apart. And they're not circles. I would never draw them as circles. Imagine instead that you're drawing an almond or a peanut shape, pointed at the ends. That will definitely help you, not just with Appa's eyes, but with most eyes in general. If you imagine that you're drawing almonds, that can make it a whole lot easier to achieve a more natural looking eye shape. And now that we have the rough shape here, let's go ahead and put in the actual shape for what it would be. So it has a little bit of a bottom curve here. Then it has a swing around over here. Very flat all the way across, so I can cut through my shape a little bit. And it curves down once again. So curve down, flat across, curve, curve, curve. Looks a little bit like Mario's mustache down here. The eyes are connected down to the muzzle shape like this. And then once again, just like with the nose, the muzzle shape gets split up 3 times. Curves around, up, down, up, down, and up one more time. And then right over here, this is the side of the face before it gets cut into the fur. All right, and then for the fur shape down here, we'll just add a couple little spikes of fur right down there like so. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out the rest of his head shape here. So what I would see here is that we have a little bit of space left between the circle and the side of the head that we have here. What that tells me is that I'm looking here and I see a curving jowl shape right here that connects from this section of the muzzle up back into the circle that I originally drew. You won't see this over here because the head is curving back around away from us. And then what we can do is we can draw his giant amount of hair. This will take up basically the entire rest of the circle shape. Just like this. Now there's one feature we need to put in still, which is his ears, which are a half leaf shape, is what I describe them as. Curving on the sides and a little bit pointed at the end. Just like this. Now, before we put in the details for the hair, we want to put in the details for the eyes because the eyes will somewhat be covered up by the hair detail we'll be putting in. So I did a quick zoom in for you. Basically on the inside of the eye, you're going to make a smaller version of the shape that you already made. Just like this. Put in a little shine here and here, and then you can shade in the rest, basically completely black. And we have the basics of Appa's eyes all ready to go. So let's go ahead and zoom back out so we can get the rest of the hair in order. Because this truly is the most complex part of Appa's whole design. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. So what we're going to have is, I'm going to draw a little bit darker so you can see. But I would not recommend you draw this dark. I'm only doing so that you can see a little bit easier. But we will split this hairline that we made with a series of sweeping lines that are sweeping down to the right because he's flying this way, so it makes sense for the hair to be being hit by the wind and being pushed in the opposite direction of where he's flying. And you're just making a series of spikes that are slightly tilting over to the left. And this will cover the top part of his eyes. So it's okay if yours does. And if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, that's never a big problem at all. I don't do these sort of things to make you have a pitch perfect copy of what I make. Rather, I want you to learn how to create these things on your own so you can create your own interpretation of these characters. I'd much rather see someone put a personal spin on characters like this rather than try to just make carbon copies of them. Alright, so we're almost done, but we do need to put in his horns. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. And now what we're going to do is we'll put in his horns, and instead of drawing the horn shape itself first, I'm going to draw a reference line for what shape his horns should be. Think of this as the middle line for the shape rather than the actual shape itself. What I can do next is come around that guiding line that I created. The horn is a lot wider at the base and then gets skinnier and skinnier when it goes up to the top. Has a definite curvature to it. Same with the horn over here. Wider at the base, skinnier as it goes up to the top. And now the final feature that Appa is missing here is going to be his trademark arrow. That's where this line is really going to come in handy. So the arrow is going to end about right here. So from the middle line, I can draw a line that is not perfectly straight. Remember, Appa's head is a sphere. So when you draw the arrow, you should be trying to work it as if the arrow was on a curving surface. The edges of the arrow move closer to the middle and then curve up and disappear. Nice, simple effect. I will say too, if I'm looking at my Appa, that I do believe this eye is maybe just a little bit too far off to the right. So I'm going to fearlessly come in here and correct it on camera for you. I'm going to make the eye just a little bit larger and just a little bit closer to the nose here in the middle. I am never afraid to admit that I don't draw things perfectly the first time that I try, and it is okay if you don't either. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why the dear Lord in heaven gave us erasers. Alright, so that more or less finishes up Appa's head here. We are going to finish off this section right here with just a little bit short series of spikes to show where the horns are coming out of the fur. And now let's draw the rest of his body. So to do that, this is a fairly simple process, all things considered, considering how difficult this part really can be. So what we have here is we need to draw his legs. And his legs, we're going to draw this side first. There needs to be 3 of them. And what I'm going to draw first is I'm going to cut into this section that I sketched out earlier and put in 1, 2, and finally 3 rough semi-oval-like shapes. This will split up this section evenly to create his legs. And we can do the same back here, but we see a lot more of the leg in front, less of the leg behind, even less of the leg behind here. And then this section here is going to be Appa's bottom section of his stomach, of his belly. So from here then, we can go ahead and do a quick zoom in for you. From this section down here, we can then make his feet, which are going to be a series of 3 toes on each foot. So we have toe 1, toe 2, and toe 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We can do the same here on these legs. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That'll finish those sections off quite nicely. And then for additional detail on this section, we want to make it look like this whole part of his body is made of the same type of furry material. So where his legs split into his feet and toes, we can put in those same sort of spiky details and put a few of them up on the legs as they move up. The same sort of spiky detail that we put on Appa's face earlier on. So again, they're sweeping off to the left. Don't put nearly as much spiky detail up here. Keep it mainly relegated to down here. That way everything doesn't just start looking like one big zigzag structure. Split just like that. And we can do the same with the legs over on the left. Excuse me. And 2. I am recovering from a cold, so that's why my vocal cords might sound like they're a little bit strained. But I really wanted to get a video out to start my comeback to making how to draw videos for all of you. So we are almost done with the drawing here, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few things left to do. So we have the top section where Appa does have a very big arch for the shoulder blade portion of his back right here. So I'm actually going to move this over just a little bit more and have it curve up just a tad more before it sweeps down into his backside. And you want to keep the fur detail, again, keep it to a minimum. You don't want to have everything have the exact same zigzag structure to it, otherwise it just starts to look messy rather than intentional. And we want to show that the arrow is continuing onto his back, so we'll put it right here. Just sweep it up and curve it back. And then he does have some spike sort of looking detail, some stripes. Those are stripes, Mr. Schwartz, not spikes. Just here and here. Again, try to draw them without making the lines perfectly straight. Have them curve just a little bit. That'll really help. Down here on his belly, we have some curving lines just like this. And then on his tail is pretty much done already. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the top of it, and I'm going to put a few more hints of fur detailing, just a tad. And over on his tail, I'm going to curve it down, again putting a little bit more of that spiky detail in until I get to about here, because then I'm going to take the whole shape and curve it up, around, and up. Because this is the bottom part of Appa's tail, which looks very much like a platypus tail. So I'm going to pull the shape down just a tad. Here's where it originally was, and here's where it is now. And I'm going to put that same curving line work in it that I did for the belly right here. Little visual cues to let your audience know what's going on. He does have some more stripes back here, so we can just dash those in with anything but a straight line, because Appa is an organic form, and anything that is an organic form is not made up of straight lines. That's a very good rule of thumb to have just in general, ladies and gentlemen. But with that, I believe we are done. We have the entire basic shape of Appa all finished up. So all that remains to do is to go ahead and ink this, which I'm going to do a time lapse so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use a Copic Multiliner SP, and then we can come back for some final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned, because time lapse is about to begin. ladies and gentlemen, and that is that. That is how to draw Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I want to thank all of you very much for coming along with me on this return to form. Hopefully this is a return to form. I know I've been gone for a very long time, and when I came back I did a lot of those videos that were kind of out of the realm of what I used to do. So I'm going to try to get back into doing tutorials like these on a little bit more of a regular basis. I hope you're all looking forward to that. I really am looking forward to that as well. If you're curious about the supplies that I used during the video, the black brush was a Pentel Pocket Brush pen. The pen I used was a Copic Multiliner SP, although really any sort of inking pen will be just fine for inking. This just happened to be the closest one that was nearby. The pencil that I used is from the line called Uni Alpha Gel, and this one has probably the squishiest and most comfortable grip I think I've ever encountered in my entire life. This is a fantastic pencil. I'm actually going to do a video later on about this particular brand of pencils because I have way too many of them. And the eraser that I used was a combination of a typical kneaded rubber eraser and also the Sakura brand Sumo Grip Click Eraser, which is a fantastic little eraser. You don't really need click retractable erasers, but this is a really nice one. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have stuck by me through all of this time that I've been gone, and for all the people that are still watching my videos to this day, I really do appreciate it. Thank you all very much for that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. There will be more in the future. I'm going to try to get maybe 1 or 2 out a month, hopefully, for the near future. I'm going to try to get more than that, but today was one of the only times that I've finally had free time to do this sort of thing. So I'm excited for what the future holds for this channel. I want to try to get more how to draw videos up there for you, maybe some supply guides, things like that. If you want to do any requests for what kind of tutorial I should do next, please leave it down in the comments below. I've kept track of all the ones that have come before now, and I made a list of those. I'm going to try to get to all those in turn because I really do appreciate everyone who's commented on my videos, and I want to reward that by honoring almost all of the people that have commented before with requests, as many as I can. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Mr. Schwartz, and until next time, have yourselves a good day.